Yo, I sat through a bit of discomfort and watched this video. Then I watched this video. I'm still partway through watching it, but I feel like it's going to lead into this video unintentionally. And it's left me with more perspective on the world. Because I'm gonna be real. I'm a white trans girl who looks up to marginalized people in the hopes of being able to emulate the positive qualities. But the reality is, as exemplified by the two videos I've previously watched, and in one of which I'm still in the process of watching, though mostly finished with, it's marketing. It's the fallacy of authenticity, the shadow of the actual ideal. A bright shadow. That's why it's not a solution towards the world's problems. It's a fallacy of revolution, of saying you'll destroy the system when you don't even understand how you're using the system in the first place. Hell, even my own fictional self-concept can be considered a reflection of that, even if I have good intentions. Because let's be real here. My fictional self-concept is based on that previous idea of taking inspiration from those who have gone through rough shit and looking to embody those qualities in my own way for what I know how. And I want to do it authentically. Let's be real here. I'm not looking to create a hollow mimicry of such spaces or such people. I want to be able to nurture real fighters, real people who make the right choice even if it's not always a good choice for themselves, as a way to try and hold the line against total societal collapse. But in doing so, am I really helping things move forward, or am I just perpetuating what already is? Honestly, I thought with all the hype around Persona and games like it, I would be able to enjoy Metaphor ReFantasio to in a wonderful depth and extent, but it just looks like another shallow reflection of this existing system. Gone and proportionately redirected to enable a specific image. We live in the shadow of an ideal. And until we can recognize that, we can't exit the shadow. You have to learn the full depth of the circle before you can even choose the direction it spirals towards. Or if you want to choose to break the circle and try and see what other avenues lie out there beyond what you know. And I'm left to wonder, where is the path forward supposed to be? Because it's clear there is intent behind the structure of reality. And yet, at the same time, it is not a powerful, direct intent, but a subtle one. So religion has reference points that are useful. One cannot lose themselves in ideology lest they step away from reality. So how are we supposed to move forward then? By consuming the cycle and using it to fuel ourselves? Or by understanding how the cycle was created so that we can experiment in our own variations of it? And is either really beyond existing within the cycle, or is it simply a variation of self-perpetuation? My fictional self is a representation of all the ideals and things I wish to understand and embody. But in creating it as such and working towards finalizing it as a marketable avenue to leave a legacy for other to inspire other people, am I really doing the right thing? Or is this just going to be another tool for positive change turned into a tool for staying in the shadow? I don't know. I don't know. That messes with me. Just like anyone else, it messes with me. To not know is to be left struggling. I really should update the colorful and the dull so that way it represents it properly. How many layers are there? How many layers are there? Circle rainbow, save as, yes. Now let's close out colorful and dull, do not save. Save this version of it. Or so I would think, but no, it's wrong again. New layer. Even within the idea of existential helplessness, there is still the idea of scale as an ultimate limit. So why does it work? Why does scale work as a real limit? This even in the midst of fiction. I'll update that another time. I'm not ready to yet. I'm not near ready to yet. This touches its boundaries. Just barely. A stain of 3 pixels. is separation. Why did I phrase it as stain? And I'm gonna be real. Contemplating this stuff is actively giving me anxiety. There's no two cents about it. I am getting freaked out by the potential of contemplating this. But if I look away, then I give up. But if I succumb, then I give in. And I don't want either of those options happening. So what is it I'm trying to do here? One, two, three. All right. I say one thing and then follow through on another. How does that help? How does that dynamically or actually help? Because I don't feel like it does. There's a reason why I'm willing to contemplate existence, and it's exactly because there's bullshit like this. At what point do you really go beyond living at a different scale and start to get into the inner dynamics of all of those other things? These why these. That's not how it was done the first time, and it's not how it's going to be done again. Yes, but no. consume, undo. And does it actually fit, or is it just a pale imitation? Well, we're about to find out. No, I need to do this, and then that. Oops, made the same mistake twice. There we go. Then there's that. Then I pull that out of there. Ah, that's what I got wrong. Whoops. One heckin' moment. Put those there. Yes. Now, we take these out. Well, first we combine these, take these out, and then rotate this, cancel, rotate this 180. Then we add those back in. Fill this within here and add that within there. And there we go. It kind of works, but kind of doesn't. It's dynamically weird like that. Because layering order, well, it matters. And so we have a correct version for this variation. Now I need to close that. Alright, then do this, that, put this above and ready for that. Do the same process again, but for the other side. Moments like these show that I still have perfectionistic qualities, but they're not necessarily taken to unrealistic extremes. And thus we return to this, which then can be imposed on that to then grab that, put that away, put these two fragments together. We just need to get to the other side of the circle. It's gonna take a hot second. If you're gonna do something, do it right. Don't skimp out on it. Alright, now I can take that and use it to delete that half. Then, if I switch around and steal this half, delete that, set both halves together, same layer. And there we go. There's the polished version, for better and worse. Is it as clean? Nope. Not anywhere near the slightest, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it not being the cleanest or the most perfect variation of itself. Because ultimately, it doesn't have to be. It just has to be good enough. A temporary solution is the most permanent, after all. What else is more temporary but an update to the system? There we go. Old, colorful, and dull. And of course the size of it is a bit much for my computer, but hey, that means it's at least able to scale up and down decently. We'll still keep maintaining some level of detail. Welcome to the internet, have a look around. Anything that brain of yours can think of can be found. We've got mountains of content, some better, some worse. If none of it's of interest to you, you'd be the first. Welcome to the internet, come and take a seat. Would you like to fight for civil rights? Would you like to see the news or any famous woman's feet? You've got teas and drama, stories and more. If no, I don't actually remember the song clearly. Damn. That puts it into context relative to scale. Then we move it over to here, scale it down even more. These are the old variations. Time to update. And now to go back into the depths of those folders, grab this. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime. Everything and anything, anything and everything all of the time. Anything and everything all of the time. Oh. Now I can do the same update over here. Why should it be obvious? If it was always obvious, you'd never have to think about it now, would you? If it's always hidden, then you know it. Then you never get trust. Now, would you? Really is hard to tell sometimes where one thing ends and another begins. Yeah. I should probably redo the other ones using the in-depth method as well, but I don't feel like doing that right now. Hell, even the fantasy of that fiction that I fell for can be said to exist within that dynamic of appropriation too. Though not as cleanly. No face of things beyond your scale. One has two choices. Go insane or sleep through it. Fracture files, 122 gigabytes free of 2.72 terabytes. Dear fucking hell, I really should clean the thing out. But at the same time, it's an HDD, hard disk drive, which means I have no idea how long it'll last for every time that I'll use it, for as little as I use it. And so I carefully only do it, use it and operate it intermittently instead of consistently. Unfortunately, that no matter what I do, the aging count is always going to drive upwards, and so at some day it may break without me being ready for that. Ah. I want to try something. Brightness. Yeah, the ripple exists not only within dark space, but bright space too, gray space too, and even colorful space as well. Rip the dark space is just the easiest avenue to observe the ripple through because it's the lowest energy state. The higher in energy states you go, the closer you get to the top, but the more difficult it is to understand a ripple. Thus, why the Watcher themselves. Wish I would have kept these in clear cutouts with no green behind them, but whatever. They were for demonstration purposes only, anyways. The self-created tool I have made within fiction cannot is not something that would help others directly, because of the spectacle paradigm and how people would eventually try to turn it into something marketable. So instead, if I create an in-depth reasoning on components and why they work together in the way they do, to give out and receive information that I can sift through, then that has a much higher chance of helping someone else. But since that increases the chance, that means there's an energy increase, and so it also means it's in by even. Okay, so for every attempt to leave behind something to pierce a barrier, the more useless that thing will be, no matter more useless that tool and dynamic legacy will be if it falls in the wrong hands. Which makes sense why there are trials and tribulations in manhwas about cultivation. Or why people who are highly skilled in their craft often don't teach regular people, but those who have found their way onto the same field as them and have somehow survived. It's not a perfect security protocol, but it is a security protocol. And sure, you can provide endless upon endless machinations to to making sure that legacy falls in the right hands, but ultimately that those machinations can break under the force of power, and so the scale of power is counted as the skill floor, while the skill ceiling is counted as full utilization of the legacy. And raising that ceiling is someone who can see beyond just the endpoint that the legacy user left off on, and create their own dynamic interpretation that takes it even farther. Which then can drain down with the fragments and components of understanding draining down into the skill floor. Because if the skill floor does not rise with the skill ceiling, then ultimately you will have grand instability capable of doing so much and yet enacting nothing. Because the more space there is between one end of a journey and another, the longer and more energy is consumed on the journey. And the same is true, that's probably true of personal growth just as much as it is of electrons or fictional power sets. Hell, gaming skills can be counted within that category too. Ember sits behind, and position is center relative to this grid. Center back. Meanwhile, Hun sits in front, and position is bottom right front. Alright, so that's the angle of dynamic there. Technically, it leans towards this direction, but not enough to shift positions within major categories, only to have tiny fractions of overlap. A percentage, if you would. Would count these two as So you know how we have a null over here with the two green boxes at the corners like this, and the area over here is the opposite, like this, with the two pink boxes. And then we have Flicker and Anitra, or Selena, as individual parts over here. How does that relate to these two? Because sure, this incorporates all four corners, while also making sure that each is a dynamic expression. But it does not contain exact mirrors. There's no top left corner, top right corner. There's no double corners in that angle. So how would that fit with these two? Would they be inverse layers relative to their components, and if they're shifted backwards or forwards? I feel like towards the back, towards avoidant behavior, would be towards divisive. Well, technically, you're also divisive, but in a different way. It's like multiplication and division have gotten entangled with one another. What color of eyes are not represented here? Because brown is a representation of orange, so that works here. Yeah, no. Tangent fade behind into this direction of frustration. I don't remember the other word I used previously, so I'm grasping at the next available reference point closest to my previous choice. Technically, ugh. I'm just a girl seeking growth, despite carrying a deep understanding of decay. I'm just a girl, not anyone special. So then why am I trying to tackle these things? Because I want to be special, or because I think tackling them will secure my own future? It's the second one. Why do I think it would secure my own future? Because you know there are people who value it. Is that really the right thing, though? Hard to say. It's all a giant gambling war, isn't it? You're not wrong there. Curing the sin of innocence. Ignorance. Oversimplification meant to bait viewers through the thumbnail hook, while still providing relevant information that they will then dynamically subvert to fulfill the actual point of the video. Hence the infinity and the infinity plus one, when really it's infinity juxtaposed by infinity in different angles. She tries to have the worst paying jobs just so the kidnappers don't get paid. Yeah, that is a level of petty spite that is beautiful. Love defies time, but it creates tragedy in doing so. Yeah, just having the power to do so was a threat enough to her. When your heart lands in someone else's hands, you don't have a choice. You're in a situation where they can threaten you. Even if they wouldn't do so. It was enough of a threat to me that I wanted to do my best to make sure that they would be okay. So that way I wouldn't have my head chopped off. Not because I knew they would, but because I feared their impulse decision should they choose to do so blindly. And yet at the same time, I also wanted to cultivate their ability to choose to do so knowingly for their own good. That juxtaposition is what's still eating at me. Is that I wanted to maintain my own freedom, but I wanted to grow their freedom too. It's why I still feel trapped. It also doesn't help that he genuinely likes it when it looks like him, like a worm in a rotting apple. Makes sense that someone like him that would think their harassment was just a cheesing joke, something funny and harmless, but even the narrative, when comically played, still immediately punished them for it. Yeah, immediately feeling disgusted at the thought. Yeah, no, that's subtle character development. Yeah, I like seeing real people. I belong to me. That statement isn't a show of power to the world, because right now I don't have the resources to back up that claim beyond psychological mind games and tactics that allow me to have control over my own actions, even in the presence of someone else's influence. That doesn't keep me from being physically bound, economically bound, or otherwise. It's just the direction I've decided to most focus my efforts of self improvement and my ability to wiggle, squirm, and struggle, such that when I do need to use the other aspects and get better at them, I have a reliable personal base to fall back on for my own self worth psychologically and emotionally, even if it's not always the most polished thing in the world. I want something that can help with survival. In a way, I'm both outside of it being stuck in survival mode and yet also still within it at the same time. A dual state paradox. Kind of strange how life works, isn't it? I'm adding in this little extra bit because there's visual imagery here that I want to take note from. That visual imagery of a screen that you can always see when you look up, even in the midst of an endless void like space. That feels abyssal. It feels like it connects to the different territories and how you can have dark spaces that are like that and bright spaces that are like that. Same for gray and colorful spaces. I would say the murky And I would say the murky is very similar to that space in concept. It's something that drags you down away from self-actualization, so that way you lose control. But if you don't root around in there for yourself and start building your own framework, then you'll never be able to self-actualize in a way that sticks. You'll never be able to get past that void. Bright space, dark space. Lives in our head rent-free? No. Our references. Compressed history. That's not it either. Notes. Ripple. What is it I'm looking for here? Growth history. Not within there? Damn. Contrast time? No. Weaponsmithing? That's a neat avenue, but it's not the totality of it. What is it? Unresolved concepts. No? Then where did I put that? It's probably resting in the archive, but I don't want to dig through it. For fear of it breaking because I overuse it. The archive deals with stress just as much as anything else. Space still has things in it. Voids don't. Bright void, the dark void. Project Kayoniki. I would say an upgrade to a later variation of this would be to have a bookshelf somewhere along the wall on either side, if not this back wall, that allows for the collection of different core reference points. But because they're within books for specific territories, she has to remember which book it belongs to. And sometimes the books shuffle their organization methods, so it's not completely reliable. Tall. How to get beyond? Because I've at least... Because there's at least... all insights of others plus my own. Unsorted unknown reference points, void flower. Unresolved concepts, no. It was very simple. Maybe I need to take a moment. Breathe. And take my time instead of trying to rush through this. Because this bright void, and dark void, and colorful and gray void, relative to bright space, dark space, colorful and gray space, sound like dynamic layers between being a passenger and being an active influence up front. Hell. Hell. If I go to gray space. This is home. I'm not crazy, I'm just failing to put the whole idea together in a way that I can present to others. Often I am upset that I cannot fall in love, I guess. This avoids the stress of falling out of it. Are you tired of me yet? I'm a little sick right now, but I swear, when I'm ready, I will fly us out of here. A representation of the structures around front. To make you stare. At my chest, and I'll figure a way to get us out of here. Turn off your porcelain face. I can really think right now in this space. Too many colors, enough to drive all of us insane. Are you dead? Sometimes I think I'm dead, but I can feel ghosts and ghouls wrapping my head. I don't wanna fall asleep just yet. If I sleep, I keep the pain away, but I need to stay awake to find the remedy. Gotta let go. Cinderella, don't you fall asleep. It's such a bitter form of refuge. Why don't you know the kingdom's under siege? And everybody needs you. Is there still magic in the midnight sun? Or did you leave it back in 61? In the cadence of a young man's eyes, out where the dreams all die. Is it not within sparks? Oh. Unresolved concepts. No. Lore? All our lore? Mental space concepts? Flicker's resonance? Videos? There they are! This is something that someone else created, but I feel like it exists as a contrasting layer. Where in here it would be smoke along the ground. But in here it's ripples along the ground, like water, but your feet don't get wet. I'm grasping at the edges of an idea I can see, but I can't describe. I don't need your permission. I will always be here. I've always been here. I don't know where my pupils are, but I'll figure out a way to get us out of here. Get a load of this monster. She doesn't know how to communicate. Her mind is in a different place. Could everybody please give her a little bit of space? Get a load of this train wreck. She's a mess and she doesn't know who she is yet. Little do we know the stars welcome her with open arms. Lives in our head rent free. Slowly. Tracing the space, but strangely she feels at home in this place. Those also live in my head rent free, but that's not the point. And there's the hatch. Oh, I want to show it in a different way. Of the weapons I made within my time for the Maclemation era, there's the hatch. There's the Blood Soul, which went through a lot of revisions, I'm gonna be real. And then there's the Backbone Scythe, which I gifted to my friend. This was at the peak of me using references, so that's the reason why this turned out so well. I picked colors from reference images in order to get what I have here. Meanwhile, with the Blood Soul, I refined a set palette, and in the hatch, I mimicked a style. Blood Soul was originally called the Blood Drive, and this was just simply the idea of it. I mean, technically, oh, that sounds like a dangerous gamble. Cracking open the orb and expending your own blood and vitality when it's already outside your body to extend an attack or blunt or blunten the sharpness of your attack. Hemorrhage. Risk reward. For the longest time, I've been trying to keep the Backbone Scythe kind of just never shown. Because, well, let's be real here. It was a gift to a friend, and I didn't want others stealing it. But currently, I'm not in contact with that friend, and I have no idea if they're actually using it. So, since I'm the creator, I can redistribute the gift how I want. And or choose to display it. Place scene, place truth, and then there's stages between where you can see it, the inside, but you can't get past the barrier. Versus you can get past the barrier, but you can't go inside. And so you have to hit this point in order to hit this point. Should I be sharing my headspace stuff and all this? Who knows? Liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves. Liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves. Liver, nerves, heart, lungs, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, nerves. That's not what I'm looking for. But it is in the same category as what I'm looking for. Alright, stop being impatient and actually sift through random art until you see it, you goober. Liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves. Random art. Heart, heart, lungs, liver, liver, nerves, heart, heart, lungs, liver, liver, nerves. I am running on limited memory space. So pulling this together is something I have to rest from, even for every fraction of progress I make. If you cannot acknowledge a cycle or otherwise, then how the hell are you to break free from it? Fictophile, snack drawer, apathy is alcohol, fear is an ever-growing substance. Fear sits at the borderline between dark space and colorful space. Technically, it exists at the borders of every space, and is part of what drags you down into the murky between. Into the sunken depths. Heart, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves, heart, lungs, liver, nerves. Uh, go wild in practice. Personal history. No, the other side. That was a pretty easy one to do. Girl with the tail pisses me off. Music tag thing flickers theories. Can't really put that into writings archive. I hate that my mind actively avoids. There it is. Space. I'm gonna archive this as a reference point. If I haven't already and I've forgotten it. Down as you won't let go, you loosen what you don't know. Eat shit, motherfucker! You think you're helping. Like, sure, I could add it to the Internet Archive, but I'm not in a mental space to do that myself. What the fuck? MP4, memes and stuff to sort through. 2025-06, there we go. Yeah, of course not. They have a similar. It's not that they're opposites, it's that they're parallel threads. Just like how an apple and an orange are both edible objects, and yet they are not the exact same thing. There's key details that are different. There's still a general similarity that is foundation of it. Sun is shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud in sight. It's not raining. Everybody's living it. And don't you know, it's a beautiful new day. Hey. Mr. Blue Sky, please tell me why we had to hide away for so long. How did we go wrong? Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Where did we go wrong? Ah, hey, you with the pretty face. Welcome to the human race. It's celebration. It's the blue skies up there waiting. And today is the way we waited for. Oh, please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Where did we go wrong? Mr. Blue, Mr. Blue suits you do. Look around, see what you do. Everybody smiles at you. Now his hand is on your shoulder, never mind. I remember you this. I'll remember you this way. Please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Where did we go wrong? Hey there, Mr. Blue. He's so pleased to see with you. Look around, see what you do. Everybody smiles with you. Okay, when I joined in on a stream of someone playing through this game, we made the wrong decision in the end. We tried to comprehend the entirety of the creature instead of saying, nah, I want to just go back and you can leave for the sake of other people's lives. This is so stupid. Yep. A lot of things are stupid and weird in life. We live in a freaky world that pretends it isn't freaky. So that's the good ending, huh? When you don't try to comprehend something beyond your scale. And that makes it worse. Yeah. For reference, I saw Quizzical play through this. Hey! Yes, I want to see you. And we chose this despite it being a bad idea. Yeah, no. You don't see the shell of his form, you get to know every layer of the structure. And you eventually lose your identity within the information overload. Memories of your childhood gone. It cannot stop, no matter how full. Yeah, no, we died and became a horrible monster. It was a bad, bad decision. Do not let morbid curiosity take you. 1/100th of a second is fast. Bye! Unfortunately, in doing so, we doom the Earth. In the end, you become another embodiment of the very thing that was destroying the world, thus not freeing the world from it. You fail to become its shell while maintaining your own sense of identity. I want to see this. before I go, you've brought awareness to something that wasn't even thinking to begin with. Seems like a bad idea. This is probably the best ending, I would say. Yeah. Congrats, you now have an Eldritch body. Miraculously intact. That is the best result. Yep, exact opposite ending. One different choice in knowing your limits, and you actually end up helping people instead of fucking killing and absorbing Earth. Protector of Earth. Ah. Yeah. This is essentially the outcome we want with an AI as people. Is something different from us that doesn't quite live on the same scale, but still understands the legacy and connections that allowed it to become, and chooses to cherish that as a reflection of history, so that way we may learn together instead of separately. Oh, I like how in the animatic, Okay. That is the same fucking challenge I had in the middle of everything I was dealing with. Is so long as I can calm down and regather myself, I can keep this from spiraling into utter fucking ruin. And though I fumbled to really achieve the end I wanted in the depths of that situation, I at least know my efforts. I at least know my efforts weren't fruitless, that they weren't useless. Running away from it. Ah, best if they do. The guinea pig. Okay, so noted. Adding in. Well, shit. Ooh, jeez. Ah, God, rat. Yeah, no, shit. Oh, jeez, that's fucked up. Ooh, that's not good. Eternal fate. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, be careful with this shit. Elder God's face is not for the faint of heart or the reckless, mindlessly reckless. Ow! For now. Oh, so it consumed the entire planet. Yeah, yeah. It's a little reason why you don't actually want to ascend imperfectly, recklessly, or, vainly. You've become a living fractal. Huh. Right. Always played by the rules and brave through the grayscale will put you to shame. Space. Away. That final ending, in a way, that reflects off of my own growth in towards myself. I am fractaling, but not recklessly or endlessly. I'm not planning on losing my sense of purpose or identity within it. I'm just me. I want to make sure that people can heal. The fact that I can relate to it is a little terrifying, though. Let's be real here. Let's be fucking real. Kaleidoscope revolver. Jeez, I didn't know how fitting that was. Technically, there's also a gray light and a colorful light, a murky light and a clear light. If you want to say reality is anchored within the clear light, then fiction is anchored within the murky light. And the anchored light in between everything is the substance, I would think. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's just a case of perspective being limited by scale. Hard to say. Hard to fucking say. Ah. Losing days you're trying to let go. Losing 'cause you're never alone. You always have yourself to deal with, so you might as well face them. I don't need your permission. Growth history, is essence in here, or is that in the compressed history? It's not in here at all. Maybe that's okay. In order to revisit this memory fragment, I have to actually turn my mind off instead of on. And just dive into the music again. Let a different part of me speak. For each of those first notes, it's ripples. A girl running through the space. Very much like Savashiki. Runs into a wolf. Tries to get near it. And it lashes out. So she runs. She meets a figure cloaked in shadow, who offers a hand and a coin forward. But she backs away at the last second and evades it. It would seek to trap her. And then she runs into a little girl that looks like her. Who looks like she's happy and friendly. But then when she steps close to try and interact with the little girl just lashes out, pulling a knife out from behind her back to try cutting the bigger girl down. All of this within bright space, bright void. And then she wanders upon the very same door. That connects over into a world full of color. Not this black and white gray space surrounded in brightness. Not this space without color. Where did the folder go? But of course she gets tackled by someone. Door exploding right as they tackle her, moving them both away from the explosion just enough to not be seriously damaged. He picks her up Right, he gets up and lends her a hand to get up. And they start running. Because they know that explosion alerted the shadows that she had just escaped from. The shadows powerful enough to walk on the surface. Okay, no. There's no history. They fall through the door after making their way to it, landing in a pond. The boy gets out first, and then the girl. They dry off, and then the shadows fall through, landing in the pond. The boy doesn't know what to do, so the girl stands firm, facing them. She glows brighter, rises, and then vanishes. Okay, it's not in there. No, it is in here. I'm gonna move this, even though it technically belongs where I have it, over to here, just so that way it completes out the layout set. It's vague, but if I drift back to the same space that let me see that visualization in the first place, it exists like a memory in my mind, and it's been the reference point for Savashiki, for the rest of myself, for the entirety of my own personal growth. So I'm wanting to try and figure it out. Mental space concepts current. Welcome to the fucking niche. Window capture. Different. This. Seeing as every concept that lays beyond it is not of direct relation or directly influenced by that core concept, even tangentially. It will not let one understand or identify new concepts upon first sight, as if they had known them all along. No, you will still need to do your research, your studying, and your growing. Intelligences. I didn't spell it wrong, it just doesn't like how I've used it grammatically. There's not one thing that will ever make a person, even if it's a major influence on who they are. People can choose their influences moment by moment as they learn about who they are, reflect on who they used to be, and compare it to what they want to be. Who live with who they currently are while uncovering the truths of who they have been this whole time are going to look absurd, inspiring and or confusing once you get past their surface. After all, the shallow surface is only ever visible because of the confusing structure that lies beneath it. Ah, no, it does exist, but it's panicking and we're getting lost. My definition of it is different from the movie's definition of it. Because the movie's definition combines a combination of this with the void space, the bright void. Now, the bright void and void space as a core in of itself are two different things. They're two different spaces because they're two different concepts relative to one another. Void space is when there is total absence. Bright void is when brightness is to be the foundational layer. Bright space is when it is thus not the exact same. Its dynamics are different, like that of it drifting through space instead of wandering a flat abyss, devoid of expression. It has more creativity. And I would say the bright fog, and then there's probably fog space, depth space, land space, sky space, and living space. Living space is closest to front, I would think. Liar's Palace originates from a book I read. It correlates with apathy space in a way that, honestly, not sure I ever really want to replicate, even if it can be used as a tool. And yes, I'm not going to read every single inch of what I'm displaying on screen because then you don't interpret it for yourself. And you simply leave this to run as a background process, which ultimately fails to actually consider the ideas present. We can breathe, but it's not water. Now, our mental unknown between and our fictional unknown between are two different places. Because the fictional one is meant to represent the void definition of the unknown between. Meanwhile, the unknown between that is represented here is supposed to represent dark space in sense as how we would dynamically have it framed in our mind. I'm gonna edit this. Okay, so there's that. And then there's my interpretation of it. Previous reference point alluding to the squares as representations instead of truth is gray, deceit is color, and deceit's gray is truth's color. Oh yeah, and how they can take on the properties of the other. Truth hides its own authentic colors under gray, making it difficult to notice without getting close and trusting it. Similarly, deceit hides its fundamental gray under colors, making itself look like truth without the hiding. So if truth's surface is deceit's substance, then it stands to reason that deceit's surface is truth's substance. I would say that's a naive representation of it. However, if you lose touch with the surface of reality, then you can end up drowning within absurdity and losing yourself to madness that cuts you off from communicating from those who you still care about. Enduring the pain of reality. Do/does alone. So thinking about territories in a three-dimensional sense is only a cop-out for viewing the shadow of territory overlap from a fourth-dimensional sense. And that in and of itself is also another shadow from higher dimensional levels continuous upwards. And territories may look small exactly because someone is referencing a concept within the territory that's good enough for them instead of the actual core. Yeah, no, I was. And this is to reference off of the other video. Is I did this as a means to secure my future and income, but is that really the right thing to do? Or is that something I don't have a choice in the matter as of where I'm currently at? Oh yeah, my own little quotes. Bleh. Why is that so big? Probably because I consider it so important. As scale increases, the amount of effort shared between people and the number of people necessary grows proportionally. Thus, you cannot always make it on two alone, although that is a starting point. In each of these statements are previous anchors that I haven't looked on in a while. Because I want to find other reference points that can also anchor me, if I need to. We don't need the things we want, but the things we need will find us, even if we are blind to them. Denial is the act of holding on to that which is already gone. It's done out of fear, an attempt to avoid pain. It hurts like hell. Because then comforting silence turns into the pressure of a million needles, piercing into your skin, into your surface, asking you why. And I only found that after reading fucking that one bit. Damn it, this is the reason why I don't remember names. It's because I consider the context itself more important than the title from which that context was originated from. And since I reference it within my own brain, I don't feel like I need to remember the names because I'll recognize it should it make itself obvious enough. However, that in and of itself can create problems when trying to call up histories and/or information relative to context so that you can communicate with someone. And thus, my overly logical brain falls short. Shorter variation on this. Yeah, that they're not willing to learn from you or are in a place to grow in that way. Easier said than done past me, you silly bitch. Even if you recognized it back then, it's easier said than done. I can understand why, but it would hurt. I was trying to take a single concept and spread it across broad categories that may not completely apply to, but that's because the concept was new and fresh relative to my understandings. Oh. Yep, and that's where you hit the point of thought cascade, where it would keep thinking about new things. That which in and of itself can actually be a detrimental issue rather than a source of progress. Because it can end up disconnected from reality. We're both respected and circumvented in parallel, not one or the other. aka learn why and how the exception exists instead of just trying to be the exception. But that's only if someone has the level of insight necessary to derive that nuance compressed within information than word. Meanwhile, someone else's symbol for nuance is a specific nuance like that. And see, if you don't understand the individual components of that, then you'll never have a full data set of all the different ways that they can combine and interact with one another, because you'll keep these isolated from each other instead of overlapping and mingling. Hesitation is the death of time. Recklessness is the death of certainty. Oh. Yeah, that whole tangent. Yep. It's not a healthy relationship, and it's not one that should stay a relationship, but it is a relationship. And then there's that whole tangent up there. By expecting nothing, you can anticipate everything. The trick is being able to continuously expect nothing, and do so holistically without disconnecting from reality in a empathetically authentic reaction. Yeah, that one's a bit of a ways off. I'm currently still struggling and healing. I choose to avoid doubting or trusting myself blindly, so that I may instead meet my fear and feelings with grace, empathy, patience, insight, and respect. It's only after doing so that I will be able to meet the fears and feelings of others with the same. And I would edit that to unity through reasonable diversity. Not endless, but just reasonable. That way gradual change is more so accepted. And I just lost some progress because I closed it without saving. Oh well. If terror is overwhelming fear, then wrath is overwhelming anger. Overwhelming sadness would be beyond depression and so suicidality. And an overwhelming happiness. So if you combine terror with wrath and the other two, you'll, even if it's not in equal components, proportions, or to the same level as the actual peaks, someone can easily still end up overwhelmed. Noted. Yep. Good. I'm gonna finish watching these videos, refill my water, and then who knows what else is gonna happen. But hey, this has been another diving into concepts and ideas that I've been trying to connect together like a psychological puzzle. Oh, I don't remember everything all the time, and so I can only work on a small space at once. Grief and trauma can shrink that space even smaller, forcing me to forget other things in order to stay present in the moment and be here with myself. So I've still got a lot of growing to do. Bye. Some level it feels like the world is distracting me and I'm letting my own fear get in the way of processing these other videos I'm intending to edit, but there could also be paranoia of what do I do afterwards, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So I've got to sit with that for a bit. See y'all later. Hope things either get better or at least stay manageable for you. Remember, try to vent in ways that don't hurt those you care about, that don't hurt others, even if it's unintentional. It's easier said than done, and you should not put your own life on the line for it. But you should at least try, I would say.